geared towards the students with exams, the parents with children, the employee who's working two jobs and so on, the person who is very busy and he's trying to make, or she's trying to make the most of this Ramadan. What is it that a person in this situation can do to be able to make the most of the month of Ramadan and not miss on this great opportunity? First of all, we need to make sure that we don't set impossible goals and measure ourselves against impossible goals. So we always hear the stories of the pious predecessors that finish the Quran once a day, twice a day. And for some of us, it feels paralyzing. That, what are you talking about, brother? Like, this is, you're talking about a different category of people. But comparing a busy mother or a student with a full-time schedule to our pious predecessors, that some of them were full-time scholars and so on, is a mistake on our part. And we need to make sure that we measure ourselves based on what we can do. So if person A has 7 hours of free time and does 30 minutes of worship, that's very inefficient. But if person B has 30 minutes of free time and does 30 minutes of worship, that's 100% efficiency. So it really depends. It varies from a person to a person. And it's very important to understand this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges us based on our own capacity, not based on the capacity of somebody else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, that no soul is burdened with anything that is not within its capacity. Remember, Khalid ibn al-Walid looked at the Quran and said, and he cried and he said, striving in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took my time away from you. So he was acknowledging that he did not read enough Quran. He did not spend enough time from the Quran. But on the other end, he said, I was doing something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is very important to understand, because we have a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam correcting misconceptions amongst the companions, that once they saw a strong man working with great energy, and they said, if only this strength were used in the path of Allah, meaning in the battlefield. So the Prophet ﷺ said, إن كان خرج يسعى على أبوين شيخين كبيرين فهو في سبيل الله وإن كان خرج يسعى على أولاد صغار فهو في سبيل الله وإن كان خرج يسعى على نفسه يعفها فهو في سبيل الله. If that young man went out to strive for his two elderly people, then he is striving for the path of Allah. And if he went out to strive for his young children, then he is striving for the path of Allah. And if he went out to strive for himself to remain chaste and independent, then he is striving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is very understand. Both Khalid ibn al-Walid and this young man in the hadith were performing acts of worship, even if those acts distracted them from other virtues. The young man, his jihad was labor and his care for his family. And Khalid ibn Walid, his jihad, his striving in the path of Allah was protecting the Muslim nation and its border. So it's very important to take away the concept of worship from obligatory acts of worship, and then basically understand the wider meaning as well, that worship is not only salah. There are other acts of worship. Obviously, you do your obligatory acts of worship. So this is not to be taken out of context. But if you are working and taking care of your family with the right intention, then you are also in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you get ajr for that. So rule number 1 is strategy of ihsan. For this one, we will not define specific amount of reading of the Quran or certain amount of rak'ahs that you do in the day in Ramadan, but it's rather you do your best. What is your maximum based on your circumstances and based on your situation and based on the time you have and based on your commitments and do your absolute best based on that. Don't compare yourself to somebody who has time, who is on vacation, who can take time off work. No, the point here is instead of doing more, but still with the mindless, with where the mind is not there and the heart is there, is not there, is to do less, but the mind is there and the heart is there, and we're at the 100% focus. So it's very important to understand, can we focus on the salah that we're praying right now? We're praying our 5 daily prayers right now. Can we focus on the salah and start practicing that right now? Can we have khushu' in our salah? Can we forget, our daily chores when we say Allahu Akbar? Can we try to focus when reading the Quran? Can we try to bring our hearts and pay attention to the commands when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, then we say, yes, Ya Allah, what is it that you're going to say next that's an order for me to follow or a prohibition for me that I stay away from? Can we stop taking the phone to the masjid? Can we stop pulling the phone from the pocket right after Salamu Alaikum? Can we stop mindless adhkar while scrolling through the phone, while our mind is somewhere else? So we are not increasing the worship, but we are bringing quality, ihsan, to our existing worship. That's the first step. That's the first rule. So if you're saying, I don't have time, I'm not saying to you increase your worship. I'm saying to you bring quality to your existing acts of worship. It's very important to bring this in. The second second rule is to trade with intentions. You can transform your entire day, sleeping, working, commuting, into worship simply by changing the why. Why am I sleeping? So that I can gain strength so that I can wake up for Fajr and pray Fajr in Jama'ah. Why am I working? Because I'm seeking halal sustenance for my family. Why I am making chores at home and cooking for my family and so on. I'm bringing joy to a Muslim household. So why am I, spending time in the kitchen to prepare the iftar? I am feeding fasting people. So subhanallah, it's very important to understand the concept of intention. Everything in our deen rides on our intention. So we could be sleeping just because we gain nothing out of it. Or we could be sleeping and that sleep, we gain hasanat with it, because my intention, I'm going to take a couple of hours rest so that I can do tahajjud at night, or I can wake up for Fajr. So it's very important. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us, Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya. Indeed, my prayer, my rites of sacrifice, my living and my dying are all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every act I do in my day can become an act of worship and I can get reward for it. And it's basically a change of mindset that we need to change our perception that our jobs or our families or our kids or our spouses are obstacle towards worship. With the right niyyah, anything we're doing for them is an act of worship. The married woman does not have the free time she used to have before marriage. She does not have the free time she used to have before having kids. But with the right intention, everything she does in that marriage, everything she does taking care of those kids can become an act of worship. You feel guilty buying grocery or cooking dinner and so on. You could say, this is time that's been taken away from my Quran time and so on. But spending time with the family is a sadaqah, is an act of charity, as long as it doesn't distract you from salah. That our mother Aisha said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to joke with us and talk to us and so on, but when salah comes, then as if he doesn't know us. In other words, like when Allahu Akbar, then he leaves. He doesn't get distracted with what's going on. So that's very important. He doesn't delay saying, my spending time with my family is sadaqah. No, now the obligatory worship is here. So that's the priority. Feeding the household is recorded as feeding the hungry and honoring the family. Cleaning the house is recorded with the right intention as removing harm from the path of other Muslims. So do not envy the empty schedule of others. it's an open door. Like we have, like for those who have family, we have another door open for worship. It's a different type of worship. One of the brothers was traveling and then basically visiting the family, and his mother was doing a surgery and so on, and then during that travel missed like some of the programs he was participating in for Quran studies and so on and so forth. And then some guilt was going on, and then subhanallah, through the discussion, it was just an easy switch of perspective, that the trip there, taking care of the mother, is a different type of worship. That the worship of the time when you are traveling there, staying with your mother who's going through a surgery, the worship at that time is taking care of your mother. When you come back, when you go back to your home and then to your normal schedule, the worship of the time becomes go back to your halaqas, go back to your study classes, and so on. But the worship of the time, at that time, when you are taking care of your parents, is taking care of your parents. When Abdullah ibn al-Munkadir, one of the pious predecessors, says that I spent the night, my mother had pain in her leg, so I spent my night massaging the feet of my mother, and my brother spent the night doing the qiyam, and I do not wish my night for his night. For him, he understood the priority. The worship of my time at that time for that whole night is to spend the time massaging the feet of my mother. So this is, we need to change our mindset. We need to change our perception. Rule number 3 is to the protocol of parallel deeds. What do I mean by that? Is we don't have time, and there is so many things we need to do. So we need to combine worship with acts that are mindless. So if I have certain activities in my day that are mindless, I'm driving from point A to B every day, I can listen to a lecture, I can listen to Quran, I can put a set of adhkar that I can say during that time. So it's very important that we understand and identify those activities that I can combine them with acts of worship. That if I'm commuting, I can do adhkar. If I'm doing a routine mindless work, then I can review my memorization. If I'm cooking and cleaning, then I can listen to lectures and Quran and so on. So this is very important. So one action item for you and myself is to identify 3 mindless tasks in our day and pair it with a mindful act of worship. Notice that we're not increasing, we're not finding time that you don't have. We're trying to bring ihsan to your existing worship, and then time where you could pair it with worship and change the niyyah, subhanallah. So if you look at it, there is no increase in the load, subhanallah. Number 4 is to hunt for specific gaps of time, small ones between major tasks. If you're waiting in the elevator, if you're walking to your car, if you're waiting for a meeting to start, all those small times, they can add up. If you identify just 20 minutes daily, that adds up to 10 hours of worship. For example, if you say you find 20 minutes per day and you say, you know what, during those times, I'm going to read Quran. That's 10 hours of Quran during Ramadan. So small amounts can add up. Zayd ibn Thabit was asked, what's the time between suhoor and fajr? He said 50 ayahs. That's how the Sahaba used to count time. When he was asked, what's the time between suhoor and fajr? He said the time to recite 50 ayahs. Do we measure time in that same way? So the challenge for us, or like, the tip for us is keep a small book of Quran with you. Keep something to count your tasbih with, so that during those gaps you can use them efficiently. Now you might say, I have the phone, I could pull the phone and then I could read the Quran, and I could tell you that's not going to happen. As soon as you pull the phone, you will start, first thing is to see the notification, and then you'll go to WhatsApp, and then you'll go to Instagram, and so on and so forth. So the best is to have an analog form of Quran, something that's not digital with you. Number 5 is passive income of rewards. What does that mean? So intend what you cannot do. So the hadith of the person who sincerely says, if I had money like this generous person, then I will give it in charity. I will give like the person who's given in charity. You see somebody in a fundraiser and so on, and mashallah, the brother or the sister made a large amount of donation. Then make a sincere intention. But the point here, the key here is to be sincere. That, Ya Rab, if I had the same amount of money, I would have given it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how you can get passive income of rewards. You can get rewards for even things that you don't have. Subhanallah. So make the intention for every good deed you see others doing. If you cannot perform it, make the intention, Ya Allah, if you allow me to perform it, I will do it, and be sincere and do it if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the opportunity, because you might be tested with that. Number 6, and I talked about this multiple times, so I'm not going to spend time. The enemy right now is the phone. And you need to really, like the number one thing that you need to take care of is do a digital detox. That you need to make sure that the phone does not make Ramadan slip away from you. That you could easily, mindlessly waste 4 or 5 hours. And I told you the statistics, between 5 to 9 hours daily in North America are being wasted on phones. And you might say that's not the Muslims, that's the others. And I could tell you it's wrong. It's the Muslims as well. So we need to really stop this, and we need to stop it right now. And we need to really stop everything on the phone, the notification, remove the social media. If you can remove the phone completely in Ramadan, do it. If you can remove all the social media, do it. If you can stop all the notifications, do it. This is very important. And I told you this multiple times, and this is not an insult, but really, wallahi, we're not that important. And that's a good thing for us. That if we miss to comment on a trend or to like a picture or a video, it doesn't matter. The world is not going to end. The trend will continue and the life will continue. So it's very important that we really stop this leak of our special or precious time, and then regain control of our time. Number 7 is the akhlaq. That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the man will reach, or the woman will reach a level, with a high level in Jannah, the highest levels, with husn al-khuluq, with good manners. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Aqrabukum minni yawm al-qiyamah, ahasinukum akhlaqa." The closest to me on the day of judgment are those who are with the best of character. And we know the 2 hadith that are talking about this, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was told, Fulana, Sawama, Qawama, ولكنها تؤذي جيرانها, that this lady is, does extra siyam, does extra qiyam, but she hurts her neighbors. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, she is in the fire. And then they gave him the other example, that Fulana, this lady, she does the 5 daily prayer, that's it. And we never heard about her doing any qiyams, but she is so good to her neighbors. And he said she is in Jannah. So akhlaq, good character, can multiply our reward. It's the reward multiplier. It can really basically make a huge difference. So if we can't pray all night because of work, then let's make sure that during our day we show the best of characters. And it's not for Muslims only. Like if you are dealing with non-Muslims, show your best of characters. Those are prospective Muslims. And how do you want them to become Muslims when, subhanallah, you don't treat them very well? So it's very important to show the akhlaq and the character of Islam and to implement it. But there is a trick to this. There is a really important test to this. There is a litmus test to this. And it is the inner circle, the family. Being nice to people outside, to strangers, to the boss. Sometimes to the boss, you have to. You don't like him, but you have to be nice. You have to be showing good manners. But with the family, with the spouse, with the kids, then that's where the true character shows up. If you are kind and nice, then the first people that should say you are kind and nice is your family. If they think the opposite, then you got a problem. Because those are the people where you remove the mask. And true you is there. The real you is there. You get out of the house, you put a mask, and then, everybody says, oh, mashallah, this brother is amazing. But in the house, it's a disaster. So if you really want to know, does the hadith of the Prophet apply to you? Will you be close to the Prophet ﷺ in Jannah? Then you need to ask your wife and children. And the same thing for the sisters. It's very important to understand. The Prophet ﷺ said that خيركم خيركم لأهله وأنا خيركم لأهله. This is to the brothers, that the best amongst you are the best to their wives and to their kids, and I am the best amongst you. So this is very important to implement and to also understand, and to also to start with checking, is it really, am I really good to my family? And if I'm not good to my family, then I am at risk of staying very far away from the Prophet ﷺ if I make it to Jannah. So how can we fix this? Fix it in the house. This is very important. Now, this is the toolkit for any person who's saying, brother, I'm working 2 jobs. I have 10 kids. I am very busy. I have exams. I have so many things. Then make sure that you do everything within your capacity. Allah knows your capacity. So you will not be compared to somebody who has 10 times your capacity. So do according to your capacity. You are the only one who knows your capacity. So be truthful, be sincere with yourself. What can you achieve? What is the maximum you can achieve in Ramadan? And do it. Bring ihsan to your current acts of worship, to whatever you are doing right now. Bring quality, not quantity, right? And then convert sleep and work and chores that you're doing into acts of worship with the proper intention. Then find those special times, those small lapses of times where you're waiting for something, then you're waiting for a meeting, you're walking to a place, and then use those times so that basically you can inject a worship in them. And then find times where you are doing mindless activities and pair it with a mindful act of worship. And then discipline yourself, detox from the digital life. This is one of the crucial points that will make or break Ramadan. And then bring in akhlaq. If you are good character, congratulations, but you can improve. If you don't have it, then it's never too late. Bring it in, work on it. وَلَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. The Prophet ﷺ is the best of examples. And then the important advice is, don't wait for the perfect time, because the quiet hours you are waiting for do not exist. The serene schedule is a myth. We worship in chaos. We read Quran in the car. We make dua while holding our crying babies. Start where you are with what you have, and Allah accepts the effort, not the results. You will be rewarded based on your effort. This is the beauty of your deen and this deen. At work, if you miss the deadline, it doesn't matter how much effort you put. In school, if you didn't get a good mark, it doesn't matter that you were a good student and you really, really put the effort and spent the night. You had a bad day, you got a bad mark, tough luck. Then the professor will look at the mark and he doesn't care about the effort. But with Allah, the merciful, it's different. It's the effort. The Prophet will come on the day of judgment and he will be having zero followers. But he will be rewarded according to his effort. He did not fail. According to Allah, he delivered. That's all that matters. So the same thing applies to us, is the effort. How much effort did we do in Ramadan? Sincerely, for the sake of Allah. And ya Allah, I didn't leave any stone unturned. I did my maximum. The metric of acceptance is that pre-Ramadan, you compare yourself pre-Ramadan and post-Ramadan. If you really work hard on Ramadan and then you increased your spirituality in Ramadan, you improved your acts of worship in Ramadan, then your metric of acceptance is that will continue after Ramadan. If there is a slump, if you fall on your face after Ramadan, you're making a mistake. If you keep forms of worship that you did during Ramadan, then congratulations, your deeds are being accepted. Keep up and never be complacent. The strategy that we should follow is the strategy of exposure, that Rasulullah ﷺ said, verily, your Lord has nafahat, breezes of mercy in the days of your time. So expose yourselves to them. So there is nafahat, there is breezes of mercy. And Ramadan is a breeze of mercy, is a month of mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing to us. So we need to do maximum exposure to it. We cannot force the lightning to strike us, but we need to stand in the storm. That's what we should do. We need to be there in the masjid. We need to be there where Quran is being recited. We need to be there where charity is being given. So we need to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, we are rushing. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba described him in Ramadan. They said he's like a rih al-mursala. He's like a wind. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was generous during the year, but in the Ramadan, he's next level. He's like a wind. So what's your strategy? The strategy is to aim for the first night. Aim to win on the first night. Aim for itq and emancipation. Aim for the highest status. Aim to secure the entry through the Bab al-Rayyan, the door of Rayyan of Jannah. Aim to discipline yourself, to discipline your nafs. Aim to show Allah that, Ya Allah, I can stay away from halal food and drink during Ramadan. So outside of Ramadan, I will stay away from haram. Show sincerity or bring sincerity to your acts of worship, and take advantage of the answering of dua daily in Ramadan. So you cannot go there and prepare your list and start now, and then gear up for Laylatul Qadr. It's 10 nights of extra acts of worship. It's not one night. Don't gamble. Don't try to be smart there. Put all your effort on all the 10 nights and make sure that the goal, the ultimate goal, is a full reset, completely wiping our bad deeds. At the end of the day, I'll remind you of the story I mentioned in the beginning of Yahya. Yahya, when people were yelling, there is an elephant in Medina, he stayed with Imam Malik. And what happened because of that is that he ignored the distraction. And because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed his work, and his book of explaining Al-Muwatta was one of the most famous books of hadith. The same thing is, we need this Ramadan. There is so many elephants that will come. There is the notifications will buzz, the feast will spread, the combos and the deals will be, left and right, and the trends will circulate. So we will need to make sure that we don't run with the crowd, and that we stay seated, we stay focused, and we should say the same thing that Yahya said, that I came here to see Malik, not to see an elephant. We came here to see the most important month of the year, that's Ramadan, and we cannot basically miss the opportunity. The final plea is, we ask Allah to not make us amongst al-makhdhulin, the ones who are abandoned. And we ask Allah to grant us the first night, the emancipation, and Laylatul Qadr. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this to be the best Ramadan, and that we reach it, and that we take advantage of it, and that we stay true after it, and we continue after it ends. It's very important to understand it's only a small number of days, and the gate of Jannah are fully open during those days. It's up to us to enter or stay back. And finally, I'll just remind you of the dua that the Prophet ﷺ taught to our mother Aisha, that we all have it as our number one weapon as we get into the month of Ramadan. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Oh Allah, you are pardoning and you love to pardon, so pardon us. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. I apologize. I know I took longer than planned. جزاكم الله خيرا for your time. If there are any questions, otherwise we could stop here, inshallah.